Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I am so excited about this foundation because I literally ordered it like 5 days after it launched and I'm getting it in my hands almost a month later. So that's a problem with living internationally. But if you want to see how this foundation performs on my dry skin, on my very yellow skin, and I picked the shade 510R, which is a red undertone, and you can see how borderline olivey goldenish whatever I'm looking. So if you want to see all those details and more, then keep watching. So this is the box that it comes in, and this is the actual foundation packaging. As you can see, it does have a pretty cute looking bottle. It does come with a pump, which is absolutely amazing. One thing that was a huge motivator for me to buy this foundation as early as I did is the sample primer that comes in the pack, because I really wanted to try it out because I have very dry skin. So I wanted to see if the hydration in this would make any sort of difference. As you can see, I have tried to film this video before, so I have used this before, and it actually made the foundation worse by my experience than better, but I do still have some left, so I will be using it on half my face. It's a very creamy primer, and it does have a super strong scent to it. So if that's something that bothers you, then you definitely will not like this. It's much stronger than the foundation scent, actually. As you can see, it does add a bit of a glow to the face. It does feel very, very hydrating, and I love that it's a very thick, creamy texture, so I have no complaints with my dry skin, but it did make the foundation break up faster, so I really was not impressed by that whatsoever. Another thing that I have learned from my use of this foundation is that it definitely settles into my smile lines, especially on the side that's primed. So I will be going in with a tiny little bit of powder and just powdering into those smile lines to kind of maybe help it out a little bit. Since this is the primed and powdered side of my face, I might as well give it as much help as I possibly can. Please ignore my noisy neighbors. But another mistake that I have made before that I am not about to make again with this lovely foundation is that I used more than one pump, and that just seems to be a recipe for a hot mess. I'm just going to take exactly one pump and use this all over my face. Even if it's not enough, I don't care. I am not adding even a little bit because it does seem to cake up on itself when you build it up too much throughout the day. It went on pretty smoothly over the primer, so I have no complaints there. Half a pump has given me a reasonable amount of coverage. I'm not going to build it up because it is kind of a sticky foundation, so I don't really want to have too much of that on my face. And I really do want to give it a chance to work because the first time I tried it, it was such a hot mess. I wished I could just return it immediately. I'm going to give it one last shot under the best possible conditions, so I'm not going to build it up on itself. I'm just going to take this initial flawless look and like go with it. So I don't know if it's all in my head, but I kind of feel like my forehead looks a bit kind of like the foundation has been skipping. Like it's a little bit patchy, but not like it's a bit strange. But if you're not seeing that on camera, then it's all in my head. So it went on pretty smoothly on both the side with the primer and without the primer. And she did say that if you have oily skin, you should powder. So I am going to take a tiny bit of powder on a very fluffy brush and just powder the primed side of my face and leave this other side untouched. So it is 12:45 p.m. right now, so we're gonna call that the check-in time. I'm gonna go do the rest of my face, and then I'll come back in a few hours to show you how well it's holding up. So it is now 3 p.m. and I'm coming back in with my spectacles because this is how I test all my foundations, and I have been wearing them since I first put the foundation on, which means just over 2 hours basically. And as you can see, there is a little bit of indent going on my nose, but it's not nearly as bad as the first time I wore it, because that time I did leave the house and I get all greasy and sweaty and oily. So I feel like oil really does break down this foundation. So the more oily you get in those areas, the more it will move around, like on your spectacles or shades or whatever. Because the first time I wore this, I wore it to a meeting and I wore shades, and by the time I got where I was going and took them off, they were literally imprinted all over my shades. Every single part that touched my face had come off my face and gone onto my shades. So my face just looked like a hot mess. But now I'm pretty impressed. Even the imprint doesn't look too bad. So I am just going to try to fix this with my finger. It happened more so, I think, on the side with the primer than without, but it's kind of barely happened on both sides. And this is with 2 hours of constantly wearing my spectacles, so I am not mad whatsoever. I have the shade 510R, which is supposed to be a red undertone, because I noticed with her foundations, they all pull very orange, very yellow. So I would usually go for a golden undertone, but that was like a bit too much for me. So I went in with the red undertone, and this is what I'm getting. This is the red undertone. As you can see, it does match my yellow chest pretty well. However, can we just talk about how flawless my face looks. My face actually does look like it has a filter on it, and I am not upset with that whatsoever. Like, it looks pretty damn good. I love how evened out and like airbrush it looks, at least from a distance. When I come super up close with my mirror, it still looks pretty good, but I feel like I can see my pores sticking out quite a bit. So I would definitely suggest going in with like a pore minimizing primer for this. But I am pretty impressed. And also the glow. The only parts that I powdered was this half of my face and the concealer right underneath my eyes, on both sides, obviously. And it looks pretty good. As you can see, powder has made literally no difference in terms of the glow of this foundation. I feel like this isn't something that I need to pat whatsoever in person. I have that healthy glow as opposed to that gym I just worked out and I'm sweating glow, you know? So I am really, really into it. The only reason that I will be blotting with this piece of tissue is for the color. I'm really hoping to tone it down with just a tiny little bit of effort. I'm patting, not swiping, so it shouldn't move the foundation whatsoever. I really like the way my face looks. As you can see, the glow is definitely still there. I'm pretty impressed with this foundation, considering, you know, here's the thing. I watched Nikki Tutorial's video repeatedly on her review of this foundation, and even she had to like work hard to make it work. So if you are like me and you don't really like to work for a foundation, definitely skip this. But because I already have it and I cannot return it, I am going to have to figure out how to make it work. So step one pump. Strictly one pump. Do not go overboard, just use one pump. Use a brush because you will get more coverage with that. If you want to shear it out, use a sponge, but only go in with one pump. Don't like use a sponge and then use two pumps, because that was my mistake, and that was my mistake before, and no, it was not good. So it is now 8:50 p.m., which means it's been exactly 8 hours that I've had all of this goodness on my face, and there's so much going on in this check-in. Like, let me just begin. First of all, I've come in with my spectacles because, as usual, for those of us who wear spectacles or wear shades throughout the day or whatever, so there's that. Second of all, I went to the salon to do my hair, and I swear this is relevant to the check-in because I didn't quite realize that it would involve so much face touching in the doing of my hair. So she kept wrapping something across my forehead. She kept like touching my face to move it around. And I think it's pretty damn impressive that the foundation has held up through that. So I really do think that's a point in favor of the foundation. Ignore this black lip area underneath my lip because I really wanted to fix it, but I knew I'd be moving around the foundation and I didn't want to like compromise the results of this check-in. This was the worst lipstick to wear like and then eat and then come in for a check-in, like just the worst idea ever. Colourpop Friday, in case you're wondering. But yeah, as you can see everywhere, including where the lipstick is, the foundation hasn't moved. So I'm pretty impressed. It is oily-ish on both sides, on the side that I primed and powdered and the side that I didn't prime and powder. Which in a way is a plus and a minus because that means that the primer does absolutely nothing. The powder doesn't really help it, but it also means that the foundation can hold up on its own without any sort of help. So I am not mad at that. My smile lines are slightly settling, but it's not too bad. Like, it's not as bad as I've had it before, so I'm not complaining about that. I know in the monitor I do look super, super greasy, but I promise you in person, I look like I have a healthy glow. A healthy exercise glow, not like a healthy natural glow, but I can get behind this. I am not mad at this whatsoever. My face just looks super radiant and I'm about that. So I think I will just blot for the sake of this check-in, and then we'll see around my nose area. Let me see if I can tap this back in with my finger because that is quite a bit of smudging. And I have been in the car, I drove around, I did things, I like went out and saw people, and I don't think this foundation did too badly. So for it to be looking this put together 8 hours in, I'm not too mad at that because I did check out Sephora and the foundation has no hour claims on it, so it doesn't claim to be a long wearing foundation. I think just because you are supposed to pay $40 for it, I expected it to match up to the Estee Lauder or at least be somewhat long wearing, but it's really not. So I think I will just end this check-in at 8 hours. And I was talking about my hair because I curled it trying to get some zhuzh back, and as you can see it does look a lot better, but it is quite short, so I'm still finger combing my way back into my preferred length. But I actually really like this. Again, this is the Bell Wigs wig and it is absolutely fabulous. Even the lady who was doing it was like, this is such good quality hair, you know, like it's human and it feels healthy. It doesn't feel lackluster like it's dying. So major props to Bell Wigs. So what I am going to do is blot half of my face and then we'll see how that looks in relation to the unblotted side. And as you can see already, it's making a huge difference. Like, And the transfer is quite a bit. I don't know if you can tell. So this is not a transfer proof foundation whatsoever, but I do like the fact that my blotting it isn't really moving it around, so I am impressed by that. And I feel like the color looks so much better. Like, it looks so much better blotted than the unblotted side. That's another thing I wanted to mention. I literally feel like the bottom half of my face looks like I have a beard on. It literally looks like this half of my face is darker than the rest of it. You can see the color that it is when it's wet and the color that it is when it's dry. Like, this is a huge difference, and I can't really say that I've noticed the color getting darker on me necessarily. It's just this area right here definitely looks like a 5 o'clock shadow, and I am not impressed by that whatsoever, because my forehead doesn't look the same color as down here. So I feel like it's oxidizing, but like in patches, not like an even oxidization, if that's a word. And I'm not happy about that whatsoever. So upon closer inspection after the blotting, overall I feel like from a distance my face looks fine, but once you get like up close and personal, I hope it will be able to focus so you can see, my pores on my cheeks are definitely like glaring, so you can actually really it's like you're kind of looking into the crater of my pores, which doesn't really happen to me with foundations. So this is in no shape or form a longwear foundation, but I feel like it does still kind of look put together. So if you needed to, you could maybe get from the office to get home without feeling the need to like totally touch up your face. I mean, obviously my nose area needs a lot of help, but the only way I know to help that is with concealer, and since I'm taking it off, there's really no point. But this yeah, I would probably quit this foundation at about the 6-hour mark. So I feel like this is not a longwear foundation. This is a foundation that you put on, take a selfie, take it off, or you put it on, go to a 2-3 hour event, and then take it off. This isn't something that you can use as like a workhorse that you know that you're guaranteed you look flawless from beginning of the day to the end. And considering I have my black opal foundation that does that for me, I have my Revlon Color Stay foundation that does that for me, and at a higher price point I have my Estee Lauder that does that for me. So why would I spend $40 for a foundation that I cannot trust, I can't rely on, I can't have it like last me throughout an entire day? Like, I am not impressed, because I did set around my eye area with the Laura Mercier, and you saw that even that powder couldn't really help this foundation, because I did go in with the black opal finishing powder, but underneath my eyes on both sides I did set my concealer with the Laura Mercier, and that's a really good powder. So for it to not be able to make this work on dry skin, I don't think that's very impressive. It did not cling to any dry patches, I will give it that. It does have fantastic coverage, I will give it that. But this little beard, especially in this area, I don't know if you can see on camera, but this area literally looks great. So am I going to be jumping on the hype and buying another newly released foundation? Absolutely not. It doesn't have flashback, by the way. I did take a flash photo. It does not have that. So if you want it for pictures, sure. If you want it for long wear to work and then come home in the evening, this is not the one for you. Just skip it. With me and my dry skin, I can tell you, skip it. It's very comfortable. Don't really feel it on your face, but skip it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe down below. Let me know what you thought of this video. Comment, etc. And I will see you in my next one.